Okay. Anyway, this is Cindy Lyon, Independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and the group that you are in is the Greetings and Memories Lounge. I have a new fun fold I wanted to share with you today. This one is called the Angled Flap, for obvious reasons. And it's kind of a take on the gatefold card. But yeah, I cheated. I put a little glue dot on there so that that would stay closed when I had it down flat there. But I'm working with some of the papers and ephemera pack from the Blackberry Beauty suite. That's one of the products in our July-December mini catalog. But yeah, that's what the finished card looks like. And let me get started on demonstrating how to make that for you. So move that out of the way. We start off with a piece of cardstock that is 5.5, I can't talk, 5.5 inches tall by the full 11-inch width of your cardstock. So you are only going to get one per 8.5 by 11 sheet. You have to use the other offcuts for something other than a card base. But yeah, we're going to start with that at 5.5 by 11, and then bring my paper trimmer in here. Make sure I've got the cutting blade out of the way, and we're using the scoring blade because we're going to go and score that at 3 3/8 inches from the end. And then you could go ahead and slide that over and do it at 7 5/8 inches. But rather than extending the arm and everything there, I'm just going to flip it around and do 3 3/8 inches again. And you'll get the same result. So that is our base there. Go ahead and fold those flaps in and crease them. And then to get our angled bits at the top here, what you're going to do is on both ends, you're going to go ahead and measure down 1 inch from the top and make yourself a little pencil mark. And then you're going to go down at the bottom here and measure 1 inch in from the side and do a little pencil mark. And then do the same thing on the other flap. 1 inch in from the side on the bottom and 1 inch down from the top. And I know this 3 p.m. time of day isn't necessarily the best time for y'all to be joining me live. But as I've mentioned before, it's the best time of day for me to be doing the demo for you, because with my chronic illness, by dinner time, I am wiped out. I'm out of spoons for the day and don't have the energy to be doing demos in the evening. But that's why Facebook Lives have a replay. So whenever you have the time to check in and watch the demos, you go ahead and do that, and then you can leave your comments and questions for me, and I will respond to those as soon as I can. But okay, now that we've got our little tick marks on here, what we're going to do is we're going to line up our score line with our cutting track and our little pencil mark. So you're going to cut the angle off from the score line to the pencil mark. So this time we are using our cutting blade. And cut that off and set that little scrap aside. And now you're going to go from this pencil mark to the pencil mark down at the bottom and line those up in the cutting track. Sorry, I'm getting out of the camera shot here. Move that up. And we cut off that angled piece. And then I'll go and do the same thing over on this side. We want to cut from that score line to our little tick mark. Line those both up with the cutting track. And then go from that pencil mark, or from where we cut it at the top, down to that little pencil mark that's 1 inch in from the side. And get those lined up in the cutting track. And cut that little wedge off. So now you can see how we have our angled flaps. And it really doesn't matter whether you do the left side or the right side on top. I've seen it done both ways. It's whatever you prefer. So now that we have our card base, now we need to cut the DSP, the Designer Series paper layers that are going to go on here. So let me move the cutter out of the way again a second. For our Designer Series paper pieces, we're going to cut those 3 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a 1 inch, or mark 1 inch down from the top and 1 inch over from the side. But before we do that, I wanted to point out to you that with the double-sided Designer Series paper, and I'm just glad I looked, because there is a top and a bottom on that design, and I want to make sure I have it the right way up. This side really doesn't matter, but this side does. Anyway, if you want to have opposite sides of your double-sided paper showing on your finished card, you want to stack those up with the same sides up when you measure and cut. Now, if you want to do it so that both flaps have the same pattern showing, you want to flip one of those sheets over so that when you're done cutting, you'll be able to have matching sides. But I want to have opposite sides showing, like I have in my sample here. So I'm stacking them up with the same pattern on the top. And double check and make sure that I have my directional pattern right side. So, okay, as I said, we're going to do the same thing with measuring 1 inch down from the top and making a little tick mark, and 1 inch in from the side and a little tick mark. And we're going to cut that exactly the same way that we did with the card base. And then, yeah, find my little tick mark. I can't see it. I have to measure again because I can't see where that little tick mark is. I guess I need to make a bigger, darker mark. Okay. That didn't show up because it's right here on this gold leaf. So that's why the mark didn't really show. Okay. So now, let's try this again. Our little tick mark is right here on that second gold leaf. And line up the corner in our cutting track. And cut that wedge off and keep these pieces. And now we're going to go from this corner here where we just cut. And I can see my little tick mark on the bottom, thank goodness. It's right there. So we're going to cut those off. And again, hang on to those because I'm going to show you a bonus card using those. So now you see that I can have both sides of my DSP showing when I put my card together. If I had wanted those to be the same, I would have needed to flip one of those over before I cut. So, okay, now I just want to double check and make sure that these are lining up the way that I want them to. So you're going to line that all the way to the edge. And then look for even spacing. And yeah, I'm running into the same thing I did when I made my sample. I actually want this over a little bit, so I'm going to cut just a little sliver off of that outside edge. I'd say maybe 1/8 of an inch, just a tiny little sliver. And yep, that gives me better spacing along there. So I'm using the Stampin' Seal adhesive here. You could use liquid glue if that's what you prefer. Yeah, if I get that. There we go. Sometimes that binds up on me. So get this lined up along that score line and get it so that it's fairly even on those 3 sides. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. And line that up so that the long edge is right along the score line. And we have fairly even on those 3 sides. And that's how that works. And again, it's up to you which side you want on top. And you can decorate it however you please. You can see here on my sample, I used some pieces from the Blackberry Beauty ephemera pack, which will show you that here. It's got some various die cuts in the cinnamon cider and Blackberry Beauty colors. It's got some gold foil die cuts and some different labels and frames here, so you can pick whatever you like and decorate the front however you like. But for the inside, you want to remember that when you're doing the inside, you don't want to bring it all the way up because you don't want that to show. So for the inside piece, I have a piece of cardstock that is a 4-inch square. Put that down toward the bottom here. So you've got just your solid cardstock base showing at the top so that your white doesn't show when your card's closed up. And you can see on my sample here, I used one of the stamps from the Beauty of Tomorrow stamp set that says the changing of leaves reminds us that new wonders are just around the corner. And then I used some of the Blackberry Beauty dies and cut out some little oak leaves and put those down on the corner there as an embellishment. So now I'm not going to finish off this card. I think you can use your imagination and figure out how you would like to finish that. But I did want to show you the bonus card. If you're like me and you save everything, you don't throw away any of those little scraps of paper, you can see I used those triangle wedges to make a background for this card. And I should have another little piece here somewhere. Yeah. You do need to add a 1-inch wide piece in the middle. But you can take that 1-inch wide piece and then take your wedges and line them up. And now I did that on, you can't see it here, I did that on a piece of white cardstock and stuck them down so that then I could trim those uneven edges after I was done, because you can see that your triangles are not all the same size. And depending on how you line them up, you might get it straight across the top and you might not. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not getting the right ones here, but there you go. That gives you the idea. You can stick those together and then trim them even around the edges so that you've got something like this that you can layer to make your bonus card. So yeah, I hope that gave you a couple of ideas. I hope you will give that angled flap card a try. It really wasn't anything that complicated. Just remember, you're starting out with a card base that's going to be 5.5 inches tall by the full 11-inch width. Then you're going to score it 3 3/8 inches in from each end. Then you're going to measure down 1 inch from the top and over 1 inch from the side and cut those two pieces off on each end to give you your angled flap. For your designer series paper, you're going to start with pieces that are 3 1/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and again measure down 1 inch and over 1 inch and cut off those wedges. So I hope you give this fun fold a try and go ahead and upload your creations to the group and share with everybody. Show us what you made. And again, if you're watching the replay later, be sure to leave your comments and questions for me. And as soon as I am able to, I will respond. Thanks again. This is Cindy, Independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Greetings and Memories. Happy Friday!